Welcome to another episode of CYSTP. My guest today has been shot, stabbed, bitten by a snake, fallen down a cliff, and much more, and is here to tell the story. Mark, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. I think Margot told you that I was shot, but I haven't been shot only with a BB gun, but my friend was shot right in front of me. So,
Ah, okay, your friend was shot, but not you.
yeah, that's one thing I haven't had, which is good so far.
Okay. Have you been stabbed?
Well, I got stabbed in the sense of like by the doctors when I had my rock climbing accident, they put a chest tube in.
Oh, wow.
So I have a big scar on my ribs from that. So I've had a lot of accidents in my life. My rock climbing accident for one, I was 17 years old and we weren't climbing with ropes or anything. It was just kind of like me and my cousins would go out hiking the trails and then kind of turn into climbing the side of a cliff. And so it's a place just north of Tucson called Picacho Peak. And it's a pretty rough trail. They have like some cables strung along the side. So like to help you up, it's a lot of switchbacks. And we were up there pretty high and then we just started climbing up these walls. And I was the first one going up. So I was probably about like 40, 50, 60 feet up. And the rocks started to kind of fall apart in my hands. It's kind of like shale. So like it fell apart. So I climbed up real quick and I got to like a little shelf. And
hmm
I was up there for probably like an hour and a half. My cousins, I told them not to climb because they were lower than me. I said, climb back down because this is sketchy. So they got back down to like the pathway trail. And my cousins were kind of like, hey, try this area, try this area. And I'd finally, about an hour and a half, had gotten over to an area with it was kind of like a half boulder. And I had my arms on it and my knees clenching it. And there was where the water runs down. So it was all solid rock. And right as I got my fingers on that, the boulder I was like hugging just disintegrated. So I started falling straight down like the cliff face, and I was trying to grab everything, but then my foot hit like a outcropping and just spun me backwards. And then it was just a small path, and then when I hit that, my one cousin Dave described it to me, and he's like, "I froze and just saw you fall like a rag doll." But my cousin Matt ran to like right where I hit the ground, and it's a good thing he did because I hit, bounced, and I was going to go off another cliff.
Oh, wow.
And
And
so he like
he
grabbed me
caught
and
you?
like, huh?
He kind of caught you and reeled you in?
Yeah, like after I hit the ground, he like grabbed my like arm or something like that and like stopped me from going over.
Oh,
And that's when like the reality really set in because I guess I got knocked out or something like that. But I woke up and they were both carrying me, and my one cousin was like, "It's not a dream, it's not a dream." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And they like laid me down, and that's when I had cut on my forehead, so I went to wipe the blood off, and I looked at my wrist, and it was just completely dislocated off,
hmm
like separated like this. So I was like, and that's when the pain set in. So that was like my first real experience with that. And so we were and Picacho Peak, this was 1997, so we didn't have any 96, I guess it was. So no cell phones, nothing like that, just pagers. So there's no way to call anybody. So my one cousin had to run, like book it down the mountain, which is like on the way up, it's about an hour, an hour hike to
Oh,
get
okay.
where we were
Wow.
at.
Yeah.
But he hauled ass and got down there, and they sent he got down to the station and they called in like rescuers, so they had to hike up the mountain, so it took them a while. So it was probably a good couple hours that I was like laying on that path, just on my back,
Mhm.
not moving, just in pain. And the rescuers got up there and they showed them where I fell for, so I fell about 60 feet.
Oh my God.
And the injuries I sustained was I fractured my shoulder, my pelvis, I broke both my wrists, I broke my foot, and I collapsed my lung. And so
Oh my
that
God.
the lung was the thing that really got it, because when the rescue was up there, they secure me and everything. They basically put me on like a backboard with like a motorcycle tire underneath it
hmm
so they could like wheel me, because there's no way to land a chopper like where I was at. And they couldn't, it's too close to the cliffside to do like a basket. So they had to hike me over to like a saddle where the chopper like half landed and hovered, and then they like hoisted me into it. But the whole
Uh-huh.
time they're taking me over, I'm just strapped to the backboard and they're like slipping because it's like, they're going off path here.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm just like dipping and just be like, well, if they drop me, I'm kind of screwed because I'm strapped to this backboard.
So how old were you when this happened?
I was 17.
You were 17. Okay. And can you say your injuries again? You fell
So
60 feet, and then what were your injuries from that?
so I fractured my pelvis, my shoulder. I broke both my wrists. I dislocated the one, and then I broke my foot. And then because of the impact, it collapsed the one lung. Is what really that was like the bad injury that caused me because like right when I got into the chopper, I mean, this is like, probably about 3 hours after the initial fall, it was starting to take effect because your lung slowly fills with fluid and then it puts pressure on the other lung that you have. So right when I got into the chopper, I remember getting like in, I'm like, it's a very small chopper. It wasn't like a life med chopper. It was just like it's like Pima County Sheriff's like rescue chopper. So it's just like a small helicopter. And they like stuck me in so I could like still see basically see the rotor blades, like because I'm like
Uh-huh.
in this like this. And right when I got in there, the medic in there was like talking to me, and then I blacked out, and then I woke up and he was yelling at me. He's like, "You gotta stay with me," and I'm like, "Okay, dude," I'm trying to do whatever it is. So I coded once in that chopper. They revived me. That chopper ride was very short because they just took me down to like the parking lot where they had an actual like life rescue chopper.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember slightly getting into that one. And then I don't remember like any of that. They airlifted me to the University uh, of Arizona Hospital here in Tucson. And then I remember waking up in that again, and I was like getting wheeled into the emergency room. And I was awake for most of that. I got in there and it was like a movie. There's just like gloves flying. Everybody's like, somebody came up to me, grabbed my wrist, and just like just put it back into position, which was extremely painful. And then
Wow.
another dude just like walked up to me, lifted up my arm, and just took a scalpel, cut into my like right where my ribs are. And then he just shoved like a steel rod with the chest tube in it to drain the fluid. He just basically punctures your lung with that.
Oh my God. And they don't put you under any kind of anesthesia for that?
No, I didn't. They couldn't give me. I was up there, and this is in the middle of summer in Tucson, so it was, it's 105, 6 degrees out. I was laying up there in the sun, and they couldn't give me water or anything because of internal injuries, possibly because they didn't know. They're just basically
Yeah.
trying to survive to get me alive. But then after that, I remember being in the emergency room. So I coded twice, once in each chopper, and then one more in the emergency room after they gave me the chest tube. And then after they
Hmm.
revived me they were able to stabilize me. And I woke up like a day later in my hospital bed, like, what just happened to me?
So, and what is the word you're using? You said you coded?
Yeah, so they had to give me CPR, they revived me.
Got you. And does that mean you're basically dead, or you're just
Yeah,
like
I mean, stop
is it
breathing,
like
your
a,
heart rate, everything was done.
oh wow. And that happened 3 times?
Yeah. Because
Oh
because of
my
the
God.
because of the before they got the chest tube in, they can like kind of like, and I think that's why I don't remember the second chop ride because they probably had like a bag on me or something just to keep the oxygen flowing. Because when it first happened, it's like right before they got me in a chopper, I was just taking deep, deep breaths, and it's the weirdest sensation in the world to you're like in the open air and you're, but it's like you're breathing into like you don't get any oxygen. You're just like
Oh,
you deep breathing, but you're getting like 1% of the oxygen you should be getting.
it's because of all the fluid in there or the
Yeah,
collapsed
so
lung?
it collapses the one lung and then puts pressure on your other lung, so your lung can't expand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And is this what causes you to pass out and code, as you said?
Yeah, that's what you can't breathe anymore. So it's
Yeah.
it's basically like drowning or something like that. It's like
Yeah.
internal drowning because of the liquid in your lungs.
And in your this is probably like a long time ago, but do you remember in your experience, is that just like you basically black out and you can't remember, or what is the sort of level of awareness as that happens, or you have no idea what happens? It's
I
kind of
would
like
say,
they tell you what happens the next day, kind of thing.
yeah, I mean, like I was like for the whole experience of it, besides like when I stopped breathing, like I remember all of it. Like I was conscious the whole time. Um, the first time it happened, because like it's sunlight out and stuff, it was like, if you close your eyes and you're out in the sun, it's like it's not completely dark like when you're sleeping. It's kind of
Hmm.
like that sensation. So I didn't like, I mean, I wasn't like scared or anything. It was pretty calm because it's pretty standard that, with all those injuries, I'm in shock and it's, pretty peaceful, but then you wake up, someone screaming at you to tell you to keep breathing. And you're like, I'm trying, bro. I'm trying.
So it's very miraculous that you fell basically 60 feet straight down an incline. You had really no back or neck injuries and no head injuries either.
Yeah, I mean, I had like a cut on my forehead here, but like literally, even one of the rescuers came to see me in the hospital like a couple days after the incident, and he was like, "Hey, just wanted to check on you. We all were pretty sure you were gonna die, so we're glad that you survived." Because so the crazy part about this story is Picacho Peak is north of Tucson. My older brother was like in Phoenix with his girlfriend at the time, and he was driving back from Phoenix. And like I said, pagers. So, he's getting like a 911 text from my mom because like my cousin called and said, "Hey," and the rescue team called, like they got a hold of my dad first and they said, "You need to get to the hospital because your son is going to die." That's what they told him because they were 100% sure I was going to die. They said, "Maybe you'll make it there. You can say bye to him and then he'll die in the hospital bed."
Wow.
Because of the distance that I fell and the injuries I sustained, they were just not very sure of the outcome.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so without this communication, when I had like a 1974 Camaro that was like my first car. I loved that car. And so my cousin Matt, they got me in the chopper and then they got in the car and they were racing to the hospital. So as he describes it, he's doing like 120 miles an hour down I-10 and the front tire explodes on the car. And so it explodes, the rim like hits the ground, flattens, and like he slides off the road. Well, with the sparks, he sets the side of the freeway on fire because it's dry desert out here, right? So my
hmm
brother just this all happens to happen in this time period where my brother, he's getting texts from my mom, and my mom used to be like this. If we were coming home and she wanted us to pick up milk, she would page us 911. You like get to a phone. What is this? Something happened? Oh, can you just pick up some milk? It's like, okay, so everybody kind of ignored it. And
hmm
so he's driving back and he's like, is that my brother? He sees a fire truck and then he's like, is that my brother's car? So he's like, that's my brother's car. So he pulls over and there's my cousin Matt. And he's like, get to the hospital. Your brother fell off the mountain as like the firefighters are putting the side of the freeway out. So
Oh my God.
at that point, like I think both of my brothers knew and my parents, they were all going to the hospital. I beat him because I'm a helicopter. So it's probably about 20-minute ride from Picacho Peak to the university. And yeah, after that, I mean, I was 17, so it didn't take me too long to recover. I mean, I had all my casts off in about 3.5 months.
Oh, that's pretty fast for such a fall.
Yeah, I mean, I had surgery on my one hand and nerve damage in the other. Over the years, I have some arthritis from it, but really for what happened, I really survived quite well. Because when I hit, I somersaulted backwards. So it's just how I landed, like taking the brunt on my side. But if I would have landed on my head or my legs, it would have been completely different.
That's what I was gonna ask. Like, was it pure coincidence the way you landed, or did as you were falling, did you kind of like try to position yourself in some way to not sustain like catastrophic injury, or was it just pure luck and that's just how you fell?
I think it was pure luck. As I was falling, because I was falling down the face, I was trying to grab everything, so my hands were real cut up. Like the
hmm
next day in the hospital when I noticed them. But when I hit my foot, I just spun backwards. So I was just ran like so. Just however I fell is how I fell. So it was completely random.
Wow. Wow. Very fortunate on that one. And then 3 months recovery, and then you're back at it.
Yeah. So it took a while, like with my right hand because it got dislocated. I had pinched nerves. So like, it's an old Chevy car. So you have the old key turn. So I had to reach over with my left hand to start it because like I had nerve damage for a couple years. Like my thumb, my middle finger, and my index finger were all like very numb and sensitive.
hmm
Um, both my wrists because they were in casts and pins and everything like that. It took a while to get my mobilization back. But yeah, I was surprisingly, obviously, I couldn't suffer that now at 40 years old.
No, definitely not. So you survived that and you went on to get bitten by a snake. Was that the next thing that happened, or what else do we have on
I
the
guess
list
I
here?
guess the next major thing that happened would be my motorcycle accident when I was 23.
Okay. Tell
So
us
that
about that.
one, I was just I didn't live very far from work. I worked at like a furniture store. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning. So in Tucson, not really rush hour or anything. I was leaving because nice day here. And I was young. I drove my motorcycle without a helmet all the time. But I had my helmet strapped to the back of my bike and I was like, well, I'll put my helmet on. And then not a lot of traffic. Like I said, I came up to like a 6-lane intersection And I had been riding a motorcycle for quite a few years at that point. So I was very aware of like my surroundings because like it's dangerous to drive a motorcycle, especially too. So people don't pay attention, they can't see you. And so I was coming up to the light, it was green, it was doing like 45 miles an hour. And I slowed down because someone was in the turn lane. So I'm like, okay, just want to make sure they see me. And they pulled out and stopped. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. So as soon as I hit the intersection, they just gunned it like right in front of me. And
Hmm.
so at that point, that's probably the weirdest experience I've ever had, like in like an accident, is that right when it happened. I mean, this is like it was probably when she hit her gunned her car. I mean, it's probably 15 seconds. And I remember thinking, I was like, well, I don't want to get trapped under the car. If I try to go this way, there's like the signage pole for like the turn. I'm like, I can get cut in half by that. So I just like I locked up my brakes and turned into the car because I didn't want her to hit my leg. And so she hit just on the front part of my motorcycle, the tire. And like as soon as I hit, like I always thought about, okay, I'm going to try to protect my head or do this. And again, you're dead stop from 45 miles an hour. So I just flew through the air.
Yeah. How far did you fly through the air? Like 30, 40, 50 feet?
Yeah, so it's like a 6 lane intersection. I ended up like in the turn lane opposed of me. So
Mhm.
probably that, yeah, like 100 feet or something. So
Yeah.
I did like two full rotations. And when I came down, I landed on my helmet, like on the side at an
Hmm.
angle. Like this is my head, this is my legs. And I hit
Hmm.
the ground and slid for a while. And then I flopped over.
Oh
So
my
just,
God.
I was just wearing like jeans and a t-shirt and I had like no road rash because I slid on my helmet the whole time.
And you said you coincidentally were wearing a helmet. Usually you don't.
Yeah, so like that day I was like getting ready. I already had my helmet strapped to the back of my bike, and I was like, well, I'll just wear my helmet, you know? And
Wow.
like I landed on my head, so it would have been significant damage. That one, the injuries I sustained on that was when I landed sideways, like foot instead of like front to back or so. I went like on my side, so like both of my legs like got tweaked to the side, so I wrinkled the pads in my kneecaps,
Oh.
especially the one. So it's like I couldn't put any. It was bad. And then because I had was driving like a crotch rocket, so the tank, it kind of comes up like this, and your legs sit in. And I guess the force of me getting thrown off the bike because it it was on the opposite side where she hit me. Like I creased the gas tank with my leg, with my thigh.
Oh wow.
So I had like I still have like a scar from just a bruise on my leg from that, and that was when I was 23. So it's like
Sheesh.
20 years ago that happened, and it's still like you can still like see the remnants of it just because it was like a really bad bruise. So I displaced vertebrae in my neck, my knees, and the hematoma on my leg. And that was the second time I got airlifted to the UMC.
Wow. And you think you were going about like 45 miles an hour?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she turned, I'm guessing it's from the way you told it, sounds like she was like making a left and she turned
Yes.
right in front of you and kind of
Yeah.
she blasted you when you were going straight through coming the other way.
Yeah. So I had the green and she turned right in front of me. What I learned later is that she had her license 10 days. So she was like 16. She was ditching school and she hit me.
Oh my God.
Because after it all happened, I hit the ground and I'd been riding motorcycles for a couple years, and my brother did, and my other friends. So we like all rode motorcycles together, and everybody had accidents, sliding out, different things. But the biggest concern is that if you wreck on the road, someone else is going to hit you in a car. So as soon as I
Mm,
landed, I like sat up and looked around, and the first thing I saw was like my bike on the ground, like it was still running, but it was smoking because she like cracked the case. And
yeah.
she was already like out of her car, like hysterical. Because she was like,
Hmm.
oh my God. And then I looked around because I was like, is anybody gonna hit me? And then like everybody was out of their cars at the intersection at that point.
Oh wow.
And
Everyone saw it and was like, oh my God.
yeah, so they're like, okay, this guy just got killed. Fine. So I I don't know if there was a cop already like close to the intersection, but because I sat up, I saw nothing was happening. I lay back down because then it was starting to set in. And then like all of a sudden there was like a cop there. Like I said, I didn't lose any consciousness or anything, but they wouldn't. So he got there and it's just like, just lay here. The ambulance is coming. Don't move because we don't know what your injuries are. But I had like bit my tongue or something. So I had like a bunch of blood in my mouth and I was trying to spit it out, but I have a full face helmet. So I tried to spit it out. It was hitting my helmet going back in my mouth.
Oh
So I like
wow.
had my hand to like scoop it out
Yeah.
because I was like having trouble breathing. I was like, can I take my helmet off? He's like, no, absolutely not.
Oh.
So then the ambulance showed up. They stabilized me again, kind of same situation, and then I got into a helicopter. That one I didn't pass out or anything. I didn't code from that accident, so I was in the helicopter the whole time with like the paramedic, and then I got to the hospital. They checked me out, and I actually walked out of the hospital that day.
Oh wow. And you said you had no road rash, huh?
Yeah, because I slid the entire time on my helmet.
That's lucky, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Because like I said, jeans and a t-shirt, if I would have landed like on my leg, I
Yeah.
probably slid 30 feet on the ground, 20 feet or something like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it would have been gnarly. I was so shocked that like after the accident, I had like nothing, just like the scuff from hitting the ground when I finally like flopped over.
I had a buddy who got really bad road rash, and he said they gotta scrape your wounds out to clean them after you've slid across the asphalt because they're all packed full of dirty grease and grime and stuff. And he said they gotta scrape them out to clean them.
Yeah,
So,
I knew another friend who um he was also riding motorcycles and he kind of there was like a cop, he saw him, so he like accelerated, and there was another cop ahead of him, and the cop pulled out in front of him, and he hit the cop and flew over the car, and they had to dig gravel out of the bone on his leg because he slid so far because he was doing like 60 miles, 70 miles an hour.
oh wow,
Yeah,
oh,
it was like he was describing it because they literally have to clean it because you have so much debris because he like slid on the road, then he slid into like the dirt.
uh-huh.
Like, well, thank goodness I didn't have that problem.
That sounds terrible. Do you still ride a motorcycle?
I don't currently have one, but even after that, I had another motorcycle that I drove for a couple years with. I had another vehicle as well,
Hmm.
and that got stolen, and I just haven't purchased. I still enjoy riding motorcycles. Like Margot, like her father has a motorcycle. He's like 72, but he has a motorcycle, and he's always like, I come over and he knows I ride, so he's like, take the keys, I'll take it out.
Does he have like a Harley or a big like Honda Goldwing or something?
No, it was so surprising because he used to uh ride back like in the 70s. He had like a Triumph, like very classic like road cruiser.
Yeah.
And when he was gonna buy another motorcycle, I'm like, okay, he's gonna go with the Triumph. But he got like some weird hybrid like crotch rocket, and he's gone through a few of them, but it's like not the motorcycle you expect. It's a motorcycle that like a 20-year-old's gonna buy.
Okay.
But he
Well,
absolutely loves it and like likes the way they handle and everything. So that's cool.
yeah, good for him having fun at 71 or whatever age he is now.
Yeah, especially buying a motorcycle at that age. I'm scared to
Yeah.
drive motorcycles these days just because it was my primary vehicle for like 2.5 years, and
Mhm.
almost every day it was like, okay, watch out, you're gonna get hit by a car.
Something sketch. People, so many people are out there texting and stuff these days.
Yeah, just running lights. Like I had a guy, I out of the corner of my eye, I was driving, and it was green, like well before I got to the intersection. Just out of the corner of my eye, it was a 2 lane, and I saw a car just flying. So I just hit the gas, and he just barely missed my back tire.
Hmm. Hmm.
But if he hadn't
So,
seen me, I would have been T-boned.
what was your recovery like on this time around on the motorcycle accident?
Oh, that actually took quite a bit longer because I displaced the vertebrae in my neck and my knee. So my knee, I had to go to physical rehab. Like originally, I didn't like get a lawyer because I was just like, let's just handle it through insurance. I'm not trying to get like $300,000 out of this or something. I was just happy to be alive. I like literally when I set up, I was like, I can't believe I'm so happy of this. And so I had to go to rehab for my knee and my neck. They'd like put you in like a thing and they like stretch your neck out. And so I did that for like probably about 6 months of like rehab before like, because my neck, you like put your head down and as you rolled, like right here would stop and just go like this. Like I didn't have full motion of my head because it displaced the vertebrae, it like compressed them
Wow.
because I landed on my head.
Oh man. Um, so you mentioned something. You mentioned what was it? You wrinkled your knee pads?
Yeah, so there's like a cartilage pad under your kneecap. And because the way I twisted it, that's what the doctor said. They said you wrinkled it, so it's like squished up. I couldn't put especially my right knee. If I went to lean, I'd just fall right over. I couldn't put anything on it. So they had to do like a bunch of like exercises to move it. It was just like it was pretty compromised at that point. Just
Got you. Got
because
you.
when I
But that's
landed, I
all.
hit my leg sideways on the road. So that was my right knee and it just twisted it.
Wow. But that's all that heals up, and that's better after physical therapy and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I still have like my knees still like have some issues just from that damage, but my neck's good. I've healed up pretty well. Like I said, I was pretty young with most of those.
So then, so you heal up from that, and you go on to what, basically like shooting guns in the desert and like hanging out and playing with snakes and stuff, or
Yeah,
what's the
so
next thing?
the next thing wasn't like an accident, but like 6 months after I recovered from my motorcycle accident, my I couldn't eat or drink anything and I felt like shit and I went into the hospital and basically my appendix was about to rupture. So they pulled that bastard out and that was the next thing. And then I had a pretty long stent. So that was when I was 23. The next one was the rattlesnake. I was 27.
The rattlesnake at 27. So tell us, how did you come to be bitten by a rattlesnake, and how'd you survive that one?
As the studies say, an intoxicated male from the ages of 20 to like 29 bitten on the hand is the 90% of all rattlesnake bites. So I was in that category. I
Really?
Yeah, I grew up my one cousin Adam was essentially like the crocodile hunter before the crocodile hunter came out. That dude, we'd go catch lizards and snakes in the desert, and we'd see a snake go down a rabbit hole and he'd just like dive in to his shoulder and like pull it out. So I probably caught 50 rattlesnakes in my life before this one.
Wait, you guys, when you were kids, you were catching snakes? What do you do with the rattlesnake when you catch it? Just catch it and release?
We'd like catch it and put it in a like an aquarium for like a day, but you got to release them. So it was really just like the thrill of going to catch them.
Okay. And wait, how old are you guys during this
When we,
time in your
when
life?
we were doing that, I was probably like 13, 14, something like
Okay.
that.
Gotcha.
But pretty
Cool.
young, before high school and like a little bit, mainly before high school, we used to do that. With me and my cousins, my brothers were all close in age. So we had like a big pack. We'd always go hiking out in the desert and everything like that and doing that
This
kind of
sounds
stuff.
it sounds like a very proper pre-cell phone childhood.
Yeah, exactly. Like my mom used to get frantic because during the summertime, like even when I was in elementary school, it's called the Rito Wash, and it's basically it's just drainage for the mountains and stuff like that. It runs all the way through Tucson. So it's mainly no water in it, and it's a really big wash, a couple 100 feet wide, and we lived right on the bank on it. So I'd get up in the morning and just go out, and I'd be gone from 7 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night, just hiking through the desert by myself when I was like 7, 8, 9. My mom would
Nice.
be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Just out exploring."
Yeah. Catching rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've set the scene. You grew up kind of with your cousins and your brothers catching snakes and going on hikes and adventures. So you are fast forward, you're into adulthood, and how do you tell the story of your snake bite?
So I had a decent amount of alcohol. I lived up on the west side of Tucson, so it's kind of up in the hills, like in the start of the Tucson mountains up there. So there's a lot of wildlife out there. Just hanging out, drinking with some friends up there. And I lived up there and just drinking. And there was a small rattlesnake that we saw cruising around. I'm like, I'm gonna catch this son of a bitch.
Mhm.
And it was fully elongated. It wasn't coiled up. So I'm like, I'd say 2 years earlier, I caught like a 6 foot rattlesnake, also while drunk at like a spa, and it was like winter time too, so it was rare to see him. And I was like, I'm gonna catch this guy, and I just like walked up to him, slid right up behind their viper head. As long as you catch him right there, they can't get you. And I just like grabbed him, and I had him, and he was like hissing in my face, and I was showing him off to like it was a party, being an idiot. But then I just like kind of slid him down the ground, just kind of pushed him away, and just takes off.
Mhm.
So I thought it'd be the same thing, but that rattlesnake was about 6 feet. This rattlesnake was about 12 inches. So it's a baby.
Okay. It's a little baby.
Yeah, and those things don't need to coil to strike. They can just whip around like a worm. Like I don't know, they're so fast. Like I really realized that. And so it whipped around real quick and got me in my. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but there's a little indentation on my finger right here.
Okay, right
So
on the middle finger there.
yeah, so one fang got into that, and right when he bit me, I pulled away, but he was stuck. The fang was stuck in my finger, so I just picked him. Like I said, the snake's this big, tiny.
Yeah, yeah.
And I see the one fang spraying venom out and the other one's spraying into my finger.
Ooh.
So I shook him off, and then immediately I'm like, all right, well, I need to get to the hospital like right away.
Yeah. This is a highly poisonous snake, correct?
Yeah, so rattlesnakes, they generally don't cause death unless you're very young or you're elderly. Um, what it is their venom moves through your lymphatic system and not through your bloodstream, and it basically just liquefies your tissue. So that's like a lot of people get rattlesnake bites that don't get to the hospital very long. Their arms or their foot or something like that will turn black, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's massive tissue damage.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know all of that, but I knew, you gotta get to the hospital as soon as possible. It was all, I'm like right up the road from the St. Mary's Hospital in town. So I called 911 and was like, hey, I got bit by a rattlesnake for sure. Do I need to go to a specific hospital for the antivenom? Though I can go to anyone. Where are you going? I'm all St. Mary's. I'm 10 minutes away. They're like, we'll call them, let them know you're coming.
Nice.
So it was like a Saturday night. So, like the emergency room's busy. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I went in there, I was like holding my hand up. They're all rattlesnake bite. I'm all, yep, they're all come right back. And so within, I'd say 15 to 20 minutes of getting bit, I looked like Popeye. My arms were like up to my forearm was that large. It was probably almost 3 times its normal size. Like my hand was all swollen all the way up to my forearm.
Whoa.
And it burns like it feels like, when you get a really bad burn from the stove or something like that, but it feels
Mhm.
like inside your skin.
Oh wow. So
So
it hurts bad.
it's extremely painful. I went in there, they do some tests, they put all kinds of monitors on you for your heart and everything like that, and then they give you the anti-venom.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to give me 5 doses of it. So they put it in the IV, dilute it down, whatnot. And they draw like lines on your arm to measure the swelling and where it's going to. And so, like, almost immediately after they gave it to me, um, it was like halfway up my bicep and then it was normal size. So I literally looked like I have this massive swollen arm and then right back to like normal size. So, like, right when
Weird.
they give the antivenom, like within, 10 minutes, because I probably had antivenom in my system 35 minutes after I got bit because I knew the situation. I'm like, you have to get there quick.
Yeah. Did you drive yourself?
No, my friend, my truck was broken down at the time, and so my other friend, his girlfriend had his car. So my one buddy had just left, and he just stopped by to say hi, and we were getting pretty trashed, and he was like, "All right, guys, I'm out of here." And then we called him like 10 minutes later after I got bit by a snake, and he's like, "Dude." He's because we were pretty drunk, and he's like, if I come over there and you're not snake bit, he's like, I'm gonna kick your ass because he thought we were screwing around with him. But then he
Yeah.
saw my hand, he's like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
So like I said, it was pretty quick to get there. But even just that with getting the anavam, if it would have been an hour, I probably would have lost at least the finger. And if it had been
Wow.
like an hour and a half, probably the hand. Because it's
Wow.
the venom is that destructive. Right now I have an indent on it, and it literally, I mean, you don't have a lot of flesh on your finger, but like 35 minutes afterwards, they clean the wound and stop the poison's active, nature of it. And it's just skin over bone and the tendon right there. Like it liquefies your flesh, basically, is what it does.
Oh my God. And so when you're driving, are you just like holding it? Like, are you trying to like stop it from spreading and it's just rapidly swelling or?
Well, that's one thing I learned. So when I went into the hospital, they had like a person on staff from the University of Arizona, and they do studies on rattlesnake bites. It's just a study that they're doing. And so she's like, you can sign this form and get the experimental antivenom or the other venom. I was like, does it matter? She's like, no, but I didn't have health insurance at the time. She's all, but if you sign up for this, all of your aftercare we take care of, and you just take part of the study because they take
Mm,
your blood like for 3 or 4 months afterwards just to see the effects of everything.
yeah.
So I signed up for that. I was like, okay, free healthcare. They gave me
Yeah.
the standard anti-venom. And then as far as the recovery process, uh, the swelling it took after the antivenom. So I was in ICU for like 4 days because they have to monitor everything because the dose that I got, because it's a baby rattlesnake, they can't control their venom. So a lot of people get dry bites, is what they call it, when the snake's just trying to protect itself. So like adult rattlesnakes will give it to you, so you get a little bit of venom. But I got, like a full syringe of it.
Oh wow.
So that's what like really accelerates it. And then my whole arm blistered. Like you shed like a snake, basically.
Really?
Yeah, like all like my like one of my fingers, it came off like it was like a condom or something. It just came off whole.
Oh, you mean like
Like,
all the skin?
yeah, because it swells up and it blisters. So you have like it's like your whole arm is blistered, like almost like you got burnt.
Oh,
And
wow.
then after the swelling goes down, the top layer of your skin just starts flaking off.
Oh my God. You were degloved.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't recommend getting bit by a rattlesnake. I can tell you that.
Wow, that sounds gnarly. I think it's also very fortunate and wise for anyone listening that you called ahead. It probably even just the extra minutes where they skipped you in the line and they were ready for you possibly helped as well, you know?
Oh yeah, I think for sure it did because they're already setting up the antivenom. They're getting ready for that scenario. That's why I called because I was like, hey, I know I didn't know fully about it. I mean, I've lived in the desert, so I know about most of the animals out here, but I didn't know about like the lymphatic system. And that's like some things for the listeners is that if you get bit by a rattlesnake, first of all, first and foremost, always try to get to a hospital as immediately as possible. The further you are away, if you're in a car and you think it's going to take you 2 hours, call a chopper no matter what it costs you. Because if you get a really bad dose, you're going to lose a digit or a foot or an arm just because of the rot that it caused. So the faster you get to it, it is. You can't suck the poison out whatsoever, doesn't exist. And do not tourniquet the wound. Because if you tourniquet the wound, you stop the blood flow, which helps your body actually fight the antivenom. So if you tourniquet the arm, it's going to cut off the blood flow and the poison's actually going to work faster.
Wow, that's good to know. Thank you for sharing that. Do you know, will the poison spread throughout the whole body, or is it just depend on the size of the dose, or do you
As
know
far,
the answer to that?
as far as I know, so the poison keeps spreading up your depending on the amount that you get, it keeps spreading. So yeah, if I got bit and it was like 2 days later, like it would rot up your arm. Like
Hmm.
it just keeps going basically. Like
Yeah.
I think I don't know 100% sure. I don't know if it would do like your whole body. I don't think there's enough venom for that, but definitely like with the dose that I got, I would, if I didn't get to the hospital for a day or so, I'd probably be lopped off at the elbow because it
Oh my
just
God.
it just destroys the flesh and the nerves. So you just have it's like the same as like frostbite or something where it's just rot. You have dead flesh at that point.
Yeah. You said that basically all the skin has to flake off. How long is is the recovery? Like, what else recovery is there other than that?
So as far as like I took antibiotics because with any kind of venom like that, you can get an infection from it just because it's a wild animal biting you. So I think it took for my hand to like for it to blister and finally come clean. It probably took about a month for it to completely be where I still my hand was really stiff because it was, it just kind of ruins a lot of stuff. But it was probably about a month that, I didn't have to have like a bandage on it, the wheel wounded heal. And that's an interesting part of it too. Like it was just a small hole, so it like rotted a hole with the flesh, but it took like a month. So just think about like a pretty deep cut that you would get like from a kitchen knife. Imagine that taking like a month or a month and a half to heal.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. And you mentioned that they were expecting that there might be like some weird, they wanted to monitor you because you signed up for the potentially experimental antivenom and they were going to monitor you for like weird effects after. Did they say what weird effects may happen, or did you experience any weird effects during the healing?
Well, mainly for them, it's testing because there's still they once they give you the antivenom, it stops the venom from being active, but it's still in your system. So the aftercare was checking on the wound and also taking blood because they're
Hmm.
trying to figure out like how long it stays in your system and just better ways to fight it. Uh, the funny thing is, it's kind of funny because like I was younger, I was a pretty heavy drinker, and so I was on antibiotics and I was worried about losing my fingers. So I'm like, okay, no more drinking. I was like, I've been kind of having some night sweats. She's all, that's not really a effect of the antivenom. I was like, oh, I also haven't had a drink in like 10 days.
She's like, that's actually not a snake thing.
Yeah, she was all that would never happen with this. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, and my roommate at the time was like, remember, you haven't had a drink in like 10 days. I was like, oh yeah.
Nice, nice.
So other than that, I didn't really have much infection from it. Um,
Yeah.
and that was another one that I healed from. So
Well, I'm glad that you keep recovering from these these feats of adventure. Have you had any other stories that you would like to share, or are those kind of like the big highlights for now?
Those are the big highlights for me. I mean, I've had plenty of close calls and stuff, but nothing as drastic as that. The other big one is that Margot had talked about, because she's like, "Didn't you get shot?" I was like, "No." One like story I like to tell, because it's about survival and just like what to do in the situation, is we go out to a ranch out here, 3 Points. It's my one good friend. It's his dad's cousin. They have a cattle ranch. So we go out there and we go camping and hang out. And we do it quite a bit. And we were out there, and it was getting close to evening time. And we would go out and like set up some targets and shoot some guns. So my one friend, he had like an old cowboy pistol and like a shoulder holster. But it's a I have a like there's modern revolvers that have, when you cock back the hammer on the back of the gun, there's like a plate that goes up, a plate that comes down. So you can't hit the hammer and hit the firing pin. So this was an old like 50s gun. So the hammer on it, the firing pin is like welded onto it. So it's like if you took it and hit the hammer on a table, you could set the round off.
Yeah.
So we were just standing by the back of my truck, and he was like, "Hey, hand me that shotgun." And I handed him the shotgun, and he slung it over his shoulder. And I think he hit the top of the hammer with that. So it's just out of nowhere, it's like boom. And there's a 357 Magnum. So it's just this like huge loud shot. No one had ear protection at that time. So it's just like there's dust everywhere. And then like from the blast of the gun, and like my ears are ringing, and my friend Fred, he was like, I've been bit. And that's what he said. And I was like, what? And I look, and I was like, he got bit by a rattlesnake? This is crazy. And I look at his leg, and it's like his jeans, and there's just like a massive hole in his jeans. So it was a 357 hollow point round. So immediately I was like, give me the shotgun. I was all lay down on the ground, and I whipped out my pocket knife, and like, it's a running joke with all my friends. They're like, oh, it's the fastest you got a guy's pants off, you know? But I literally just whipped out my knife. I don't know how I thought of it, but I sliced his pants open, and then just like put pressure on the wound when he's laying down. And like I said, so it came down off of his shoulder and hit his thigh the way he was
Mhm.
standing. So it hit the side of his leg,
Yeah.
and it went into there. And like I put my hands on it, and it was just like there was blood everywhere. I could like feel his pulse. So I'm like, he's gonna die. So I told my other buddy, I was like, take your belt off, put a tourniquet on his leg. And so like that all happened in like 60 seconds. And
Yeah.
then it was about like a minute or two longer. I'm like holding pressure on it. My other friends like call 911 to get someone out there, because we're out in the desert pretty far, and we had like kind of 4-wheel drive to that location. So I told him, I was like, I've been on a chopper before. I'm gonna tell him to send the chopper, because it's a hollow point round. I don't know, like immediately. I think most, at least I think about it, is the artery in your leg. If you
Yeah.
hit
Yeah.
that, you bleed out almost immediately.
I think it's the femoral artery.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I was like panicked that was it. So I'm holding it, and I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure it's not that, because it's been a few minutes and it seems to be stopping. And then it came to me, and my buddy's in like extreme pain. I can't even, like, he was handling it pretty well. But I'm thinking to myself, we're laying in the sand. I got my hands on this wound. Is there an exit wound? So I
Mm.
was like, hey, buddy, I was like, dude, this is going to suck, but we got to roll you over. I got to check the bottom of your leg, because I don't know if I'm holding one wound and it's leaking out the other side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's
And
like,
also for the listeners, you held up a wound size. It looked like you made a shape of like a baseball.
yeah, it was,
So
it
so
was
this
probably
guy's
the
got a
size.
he's been hit in the leg with a bullet, and the wound is like about the size of a baseball.
Yeah, it was quite like my whole hands were covering up the whole wound. So we put
Yeah.
pressure on it. I rolled him over. There was no exit wound. And so we called the helicopter. They sent a helicopter. They got pretty quick. But we were in a pretty shitty area, so they couldn't land. So we had to load him in the back of my truck, drive him out. And this is like rough road. So he's in the bed of my truck, suffering all this pain. We found a clearing. They landed the chopper. We got him in there. And it was the worst thing I've ever seen, because I mean, this is a massive wound. And this paramedic like literally just takes a roll of gauze and starts with his like finger and just jamming it into the wound to stop the bleeding.
Oh my God.
So
So
he jammed like 5 paper towels into this thing, essentially, like of stuff, and he just like digging his finger, and my buddy is just like screaming in pain.
and excuse me. Wow. Just backing up though, you found no exit wound, right?
Yeah. So the bullet was in his leg, and so he got to the hospital. We were out in the middle of the desert. We packed up everything, drove back into town. we heard that he was my one friend's brother who um his family is part of that ranch.
Hmm.
He's a firefighter, so he was on call that night and he heard the call over the line that someone, it's called the Mendoza Canyon, and he knew we were at the ranch, and he's all self-inflicted gunshot wound at the Mendoza Canyon at the Kings Anvil Ranch. And so like he called my buddy, his brother, and he's all, who got shot? And he's all, is it Fred? Because Fred's kind of accident prone. This should be me, but anyways, he was at the hospital when he showed up. It ended up being okay. It was the most disgusting wound I've ever seen. I couldn't believe that it did that much damage just like on the entry of it.
Hmm.
And it took him a while to recover just the wound. I mean, it's a pretty massive wound, but he did like about 3 weeks, a couple weeks afterwards. Like he called me up. He's like, "Dude, you need to take me to the hospital." He's all, "I'm feeling like shit," and his leg felt like you put your hand into like a 500-degree oven because it was infected. Because they left
Oh.
the bullet in, they didn't pull the bullet out, and I was like, they didn't pull the bullet out. I guess they don't pull bullets out of people anymore. Like unless they absolutely have to, they
I
leave them
wonder
in.
why. I wonder why that is.
The doctor explained it to saying that they can cause more damage, like nerve damage and stuff. Like it's already done what it's doing, and as long and like you're not talking about like a lead ball from like the Civil War area. This is like pretty reasonable material that's not going to cause you a lot of damage. So, but it got infected, so they had to pull it out. So he has the bullet. It's like a fully mushroomed hollow
Oh
point
wow! So he took a 350 Magnum round at close range to the leg.
right to his leg, and it just I can't believe the damage that it causes to it. It's
It
really
was
intense.
it was brutal what you saw.
Yeah, and it was good that it's if he got shot from the side, probably would have shot an artery. He could have hit his bone, but again, it was a pretty lucky situation. But his brother, who's with the fire department paramedic, he's like, because we were kind of panicked. Like I thought I was doing the right thing, but he's like, in that situation, dude, always throw him in the truck and drive as fast. Call 911, try to get a chopper out there, but drive as fast as you can to medical care because you don't know what it hit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he lived. Now, an interesting thing in the story, you mentioned you guys had to find a clearing. Are you guys like on the phone with like a 911 operator and like communicating like where to meet this chopper? How's that work?
So where we were in the desert, oddly enough, we got service. Like I had an AT&T phone, my buddy had a Verizon phone, so he would get service. Like he actually happened to get. A lot of times you don't get service out there, but that place we happened to do. So he called them, and we had, we have flashlights, and we had a big. So his actually two of his kids were there at a time, so they're freaking out. So I tried to like distract them. We always have a big bonfire out there. So I was
Hmm.
like, dude, throw all the wood on the fire that we cut. So it's a big glow. There's nothing out there. There's no houses, no nothing. So you can spy it. So the chopper was able to locate us by that.
Oh, you built a signal fire.
Yeah, because we already had like our cook fire and like a bonfire going. So I said, throw all the wood on it so they can see it. I mean, we've built fires out there you can see from space probably. And so we're like, they'll be able to see us. And then he spotlighted us. And then my buddy Mike was on the phone with the dispatcher and they were communicating to the choppers and they were like, we can't land here. So we're gonna fly out and follow the main road. And when we can land, we'll land, but you need to just keep driving until you find us. And
Oh,
they found a
wow.
spot where they could land. It wasn't very flat, so he was kind of hovering. So we got him there with the truck. We helped load him in the chopper. He's a pretty big dude. And then they got him in there and I saw the guy and this is what I know because of my rock climbing accident. If they don't give you morphine, it means you have a real good chance of dying because they can't compromise your body. Because that's why my rock climbing accident, I didn't get any pain medication. They can't give it to you because I'm in such a fragile state. They give you
Hmm.
morphine, you're just gonna die.
Yeah.
So I
It'll
saw
like
him in the
weaken you.
chopper. Yeah, I saw him in the chopper, like flicking the needle. I was like, he's gonna feel a lot better and he's not gonna die.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic.
And so they fly off, and we're like, all right. And there's like the sheriff's department because they drove out there to like find us and help out. And we're like, all right, guys, well, we appreciate selling your friend. They're like, whoa, 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 someone got shot. We need to talk to all of you separately, you know? So
No,
they
so
like,
everyone gets interrogated after an incident like that.
yeah. So which is weirdly enough, pretty sure they knew it wasn't like a real terrible problem, but they followed us back, and it was really bad 4-wheel drive to get back to the campsite. So we need to see what happened. And sure enough, he was like, there was like a sheriff's there, and she was like, do you guys have any? Where's the gun? And we're like, it's right there on the back of the truck. She's all, are there any other guns out here? And like, there's literally like two on the tailgate. There's like a pistol over on this ice chest because like big gun enthusiasts, we have quite a few of them.
Yeah.
So they're just like everywhere, and they're like, okay, step away from him. And we're like, okay, we're not gonna do anything. And they talked to us, they got the gun, they took it with them,
Mhm.
and then we were good to go. At that time it was like 7, 8 o'clock at night. So we just packed up the campsite and went back to go, see him at the hospital. Because we had talked to his brother. He was there, like, after this investigation, he'd already been to the hospital. They checked him out. They knew he was going to be okay.
Yeah.
So my one friend's brother called us, like, we're good, but obviously we're coming back to town because, I said staying out camping after that.
I thought maybe you guys might stay out and party.
Yeah. We were thinking about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, well, I'm glad your friend survived and he's good now, right? He's fine, no issues. He's all healed up and good to go.
Yeah, I think it gives him a little bit of pain here once in a while, but as far as what happened to him, he's in great shape for it.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing all these amazing survival stories. For the listeners out there, I didn't mention that Mark is the partner and boyfriend of a previous guest named Margot. Check out the episode with Margot from a few months ago. But Mark, I wanted to check with you, as you know, this is Can You Survive This podcast?
Yeah.
And Margot was on the show. She did a hypothetical survival scenario, and I wanted to see, are you down as well to try the CYSTP hypothetical survival scenario?
Absolutely. I'm
Oh,
interested what you come up with.
okay, amazing. Let's do this. Let me get my notes out here and we go for it. All right. So here we go. 1 second. All right. Are you ready? You can hear me, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm ready to go.
All right, here we go. For this scenario, you wake up in a dark, cold room with no memory of how you got there. You hear footsteps outside the door. Do you A, stay quiet and assess your situation, or B, yell for help?
I would say assess my situation. So
Fantastic. A is correct. You stay quiet and you assess your situation. The person in the house leaves without noticing you're awake. You have a chance to look around and see if there's anything you can use to help you escape. Do you A, look for a weapon, or B, search for a way out?
I would say, first of all, I'd look for a weapon and then search for a way out.
Fantastic. Yeah, you look for the weapon first, then you look for the way out. So A is correct. You find a long, sharp piece of glass that you can use as a weapon, but you're not sure what to do next. Do you A, wait for the kidnapper to return and confront them, or B, keep the weapon with you and search for a way out?
Keep the weapon and search for a way out.
Fantastic. B is correct. You search the room and find a small window that you can fit through. Do you A, escape through the window, or B, prepare to fight if the kidnapper comes back?
I think I'd be trying to get out that window.
You're on a roll, my friend. A is correct. You try to escape through the window, but it is locked. So, do you A, break the window with a nearby object, or B, search the room for another way out?
I guess I would probably break the window.
A is correct. You break the window, but it sets off an alarm, and the kidnapper returns before you can escape. So, do you A, fight back, or B, try to reason with the kidnapper?
I'd be fighting back.
A is correct. You're on a roll. You fight back, but the kidnapper overpowers you. So do you A, keep fighting, or B, save your energy and then try to reason with the kidnapper?
I'd keep fighting.
Correct again. You keep fighting and the kidnapper finally retreats. You have a chance to escape. Do you A, keep beating the kidnapper, or B, escape while you can?
Escape while you can.
Fantastic. You run, but you run into a dead end. And suddenly you become cornered by the kidnapper. And you have cut him pretty good, and you notice he's leaking a lot of blood. Do you A, keep the fight going, increasing his heart rate, or B, try to reason with him, waiting for him to bleed out?
I would keep fighting back, try to get him to bleed more.
Exactly. A is correct. You keep fighting until he bleeds out. Congratulations, you have survived this podcast.
Awesome.
So that was a fast one. Thank you for playing along. You know what? I think that's the same one that I gave to Margot, but I'm not sure. But
I was actually listening to earlier today because I was like, I'm gonna be on here. I want to listen to a few more podcasts. I was listening to Brandon Morgan with the Lincoln assassination and stuff.
yeah, yeah.
I'm actually gonna meet Brandon next weekend in Phoenix.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, because Margot, everybody knows him. I've talked to him a bunch. Like, I'm a big fan of that guy.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm coming to Phoenix. And Margot's like, who? I'm like, we're going up there.
Dude, awesome. What's he coming to Phoenix for?
I think it's his daughter's like volleyball tournaments.
Okay, so you guys are all going to hang.
Yeah, so we're gonna go up there just to like on the over the weekend and just kind of see him at like on Saturday night or something, hang out, have some dinner.
Fantastic. I love that. What hey, you guys should come out to LA sometime.
I know we've been talking about that because go visit Brandon and a few other people she knows out there. And I was when I found out he was coming, I was like, hey, let's go up there and then we'll have to go out to LA and see all you guys. I'd like to meet you. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you for coming on the show. I had a great time. And yeah, I'll hit stop on this recording, but definitely come visit LA sometime.
Absolutely.